Let's take you now to Ethiopia, where rebel forces in Tigray say they've seized a major town in a new offensive there. A rebel spokesman says the town of Raya was taken after federal and Amhara forces withdrew. Now, it's the most intense fighting scene since rebels took the main city of Mekele in June. In the last few hours, the UN Human Rights Council has passed a resolution expressing deep concern about abuses in Tigray. It's calling for the withdrawal of Eritrean troops, which it says are exacerbating the conflict. It comes as fighting is also being reported in several refugee camps in the region. Well, let's take a quick look at how this conflict unfolded. The TPLF dominated Ethiopian politics for nearly 30 years until Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018. Now, Abiy ordered a military operation against the group in Tigray in November. He said it attacked army bases. Well, the TPLF claimed that they were being unfairly targeted. Tigray opposition parties say more than 50,000 people have been killed, while the UN says more than 400,000 have been pushed into famine. Last month, the African Union launched an independent inquiry into alleged human rights abuses in the region after widespread accounts of massacres and sexual violence against civilians. Well, Matt Bryden is a strategic advisor with Sahan Research. That's a think tank focusing on politics and security in the Horn of Africa. He joins us by Skype from Nairobi. Good to have you with us on the news hour. We've given some of the context and the background here, but let's focus on that new military push that the Tigrayans have made. What do you think they're hoping to achieve here?
Well, they've taken now essentially all of southern Tigray, and the leadership has announced that it intends to liberate every inch of Tigrayan territory. So I think what we're seeing is the first of several offenses that are likely to take place over the coming weeks. If the southern flank of Tigray is now considered secure, then I would expect the Tigrayan Defense Forces to focus their attention to the north, where there are still Eritrean troops inside Tigray, on the border areas, and then also to push west to into lands that have been annexed by neighboring Amhara state, are claimed as ancestral Amhara lands, and are now under the occupation of Amhara special forces and militias. And that theater is going to be particularly important because Tigray is essentially under an embargo, and the TDF is anxious to open a corridor for both humanitarian supplies and presumably for its own needs as well.
So let's talk about the humanitarian situation then. Are the Tigray Liberation Front, are they likely to get this corridor opened? Because the UN have been saying that hundreds of thousands of people are now in famine. Certainly, the situation is dire at the best of times. I mean, what hope do you think there is of this humanitarian situation in Tigray improving with these latest developments?
Well, it doesn't look good. Despite the federal government announcing that it would allow humanitarian access, resume humanitarian flights, let aid agencies do their work, very little has happened. Flights have not resumed to Mekele, so some aid workers have not been able to return. Food and other much needed goods have been tied up in bureaucratic procedures or held at checkpoints in neighboring Amhara and Afar regions. So there've only been a very small number of convoys with food reaching Tigray. In addition, the federal government has essentially imposed a sort of siege on Tigray, cutting off all telecommunications, shutting down electricity, and preventing all movement in and out of the state's borders. So it's essential for the TDF. If the Ethiopian government won't allow aid into the region, then they're going to have to fight their way to the Sudanese border and to see if they can attract assistance that way.
Is this legal in humanitarian terms to effectively put this region and these refugee camps under siege?
Well, I can't speak as to whether it's legal. The United States has characterized it as, or at least parts of this conflict, as ethnic cleansing. And I think the level of violence and systematic atrocities against civilians, destruction of food crops, slaughtering of the livestock that they need, destruction of seeds that they would have been, in theory, they would have already planted for the farming season. All of this suggests a campaign that at least approaches genocidal intent, if not simply ethnic cleansing as the Americans have characterized it.
OK, I'm afraid we're out of time, but it was great to get your thoughts and your perspective. That's Bryden, Strategic Advisor with Sahan Research. Thank you.